dedicated session. The first presentation from Dr. Zeybekis is excluded because you have already attended this presentation in the common meeting. The next one is the ground testing corridor 4, 5 and 7. And the first presentation is by Mr. Janos Moldovic. Okay. So we have the floor, Mr. Moldovic.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thus, this afternoon, the ground test introduction for corridor 5 and some words about the intermodality. This morning I edited the news from logistics manager about the John G. Russell boost in sales and profits. And you can see they based this success to the road rail intermodal distribution network and the reduction of their carbon footprint in their business practice. And I think it's a very important sign for us. We are on the right road, I think, when we try to develop new methods and practices for the logistics providers. As you can see on both of these maps, the Pan-European Corridor 5, or also called the Mediterranean Corridor, is continental. Its trail extends from Kiev to Lisbon. Its roles and relations to other corridors are considered to be one of the most significant corridors in the European goods transportation. At the same time, its three branches in Central Europe include better interconnections of transactions. So it's a very important part of the European connections through corridor 5. On this slide, the logistics of research realized in the framework of the project can be seen, and there were three phases we performed. The first phase is as is scenarios forming the currently existing transportation services, based on the currently existing transportation services through the transportation from origin to destination only by truck. We compose the truck transactions and we measure the cost duration and emissions based on the KPIs, the country KPIs. In the second phase, we formed 2B scenarios where existing or non-existing transportation services were in the focus. Same origin and destination as is scenarios by using combined transportation. So we planned new versions compared to truck transactions, and we measured the cost duration, and we measured and calculated the cost duration and emissions based on the KPIs. And finally, we selected on the 2B from the 2B scenarios one transaction to perform the ground test. So the desktop test means the as-is scenario has collected delivery transactions based on facts. Within the framework of this phase, currently only road transport has been identified and characteristics of transactions have been analyzed. And the second phase to the scenario has modeled alternative combined delivery solutions of these transactions, as well as evaluated them based on the previously explored country-specific KPIs such as delivery time, delivery cost, and environmental burden. Through the desktop test, we highlighted 5 relations. First, Verona, Budapest, Sükös, Piacere, ez a Haniska-Košice, Bologna, and Budapest, Porto of Koper, and Budapest. The main KPI groups were service efficiency, service quality, environmental sustainability, ICT, infrastructure, and transport business players. In the second phase, we performed the ground test, which means the realization of the most favorable to-be scenario real-time test, and comparing and evaluating results of the desktop and of the ground test. The selected ground test relation was Verona Budapest. In the ESIS scenario, this transaction started at Verona and finished at Budapest through Szezsana and Ledlava. And the total duration was a little bit more than 11 hours, and the total cost was a little bit more than 1,000 euros. At the to-be scenario, we combined this truck transaction by railway transaction. Let's see, the total transport distance increased by roughly 80 kilometers because the road and railway route wasn't the same. The railway route was longer. And here the subtotal duration was 18-19 hours, and the cost was lower than the as a scenario. Here you can see and on the comparison the SES and to-be scenarios. The emission of modal split decreased and the duration increased in this comparison. In the ground test phases, we performed between Verona, Patranete-Európa and Ljubljana-Moste, the first section, and later Ljubljana-Moste, Budapest-Birk, and the third section was Budapest-Birk and Budapest-Szabolcs-Gödöllő and back, from Gödöllő to Verona. The to-be ground test scenario finally resulted quite long subtotal duration. It means 23 hours total, and the cost was a little bit higher as we calculated at the desktop test. The trip duration, the positive effect of the trip in the trip duration was 3 hours shorter, and the ground test cost, but the ground test cost was higher, definitely higher. If we can compare on the basis of delivery time and transport cost, we can see the real-time necessity has been below the calculation of data made by KPI by 10% due to which data should be collected according to some method, and the rules of intermodality between transportation modes should be laid down. This requirement makes the countries that have transportation connections with one another should cooperate with one another. Compared to road transport, rail transport lags behind to a significant extent due to the technical, organizational insufficiency of intermodality and of transportation modes, as we found in the previous presentation. According to the transport cost, the real delivery cost has exceeded the delivery cost calculated by KPI data by 50%, total-based calculation. and in case the container delivery cost TU measure has been used in the previous statement, despite the fact that the cost of the ground test has exceeded the cost of road transport by 8–9%, but the measure of environment burden paid by the community is about 1/3 that of the road transport. Therefore, the issue of societal cost efficiency of transport modes have been arising from time to time. As Zlatan presented in Modena, I think it's a very important aspect of the whole problem circle. Finally, I would like to focus a little bit to the intermodality problem and some aspects of the intermodality problem for the future. What the intermodality does mean? It's to improve the cooperation of the different modes of transport, as the logistics chain still has lots of shortcomings in infrastructural, technical, organizational and legal aspect. I would like to flash only a trial from technical meaning this problem. At this trial, the targets of current development plans was development of co-modality devices, facilities, equipment, infrastructure. So the problem between the road and transport, railway transport, the devices for the right devices for the fast change of goods, supported by ICT tools, automatic control of equipments, and generally the lack of the ICT tools between these transport modes. For example, the scheduling of the loading tasks coming train. Let's remember a member in the previous presentation, optimal loading and settling schedule at the service points, railway operation station, up and down loading sequences, information for the next stations and logistics service providers. And physically, this system has different elements. In a nutshell, we are going to review a device which enables quick exchange and organization between the road and railway transport. The incoming train, represented here, is served by a container loading device moving on a parallel or side track. This device can have upper or side rolling system. In the latter case, it can run even under an electric wire. The devices can load containers directly to truck or to the ground. So the combination, you can see the ground and the truck loading field. Even two containers on high level, or to a special equipment, so-called organizer field. This organizer field can support the reorganizing of the train sequence, container sequence, or movement of containers are fostered by special frames between two container organizer fields. The system movement of the loading equipments and the organizer field is automatic by the help of ICT hardware and software components. The system performs its task in accordance with the task to be served. The whole system can support partial or full organizing of an incoming train in accordance with the disconnecting demands of the following stations. The basic version of the system can be installed even at such points where it has been impossible to stop and serve a train. Therefore, new service points can be established in order more combined distribution network will be established and expanded. And on the third slide, we can see physically the parts of the pilot project holding up equipment here, the holding sideboard equipment over there, and the frame, and the holding sideboard, and the container organizer field. I think it can be a good chance for the continuation of this project. Thank you for your attention.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Agnes Dalandi. I'm here because I had the opportunity to be part of the evaluation of the ground test performed on Corridor 4 and Corridor 7. For the evaluation, the ground tests were performed in the cooperation of the project partners, but the evaluation for the evaluation on Corridor 4, the Rail Hungarian was the responsible partner, and in Corridor 7, the Port of Baja. Thank you for János for explaining the main theory of the desktop and ground test, and I will say only some words about the theory of it. This ground test gave us the opportunity to test theoretical models we implemented and established within the GIFT project. Because the aim of the desktop test was to create a theoretical combination of transport modes on a specific transport route, and finding out some very important indicators of these routes, meaning transport time, transport cost, and which is very important for us in this project, the carbon dioxide emission. And by means of the ground test, we could test our theoretical model, and we could compare the real data with the theoretical indicators. Yes, this process was shortly explained by János as well. Just some words on it. In the theoretical model, we had the so-called as-is and to-be scenarios. The as-is scenario regards only road transportation, while to-be scenarios were looking for alternative routes, which most often do not exist at the moment, but they include several modes of transport. And in the ground test, we chose one of the to-be scenarios, and we implemented and tested finally one of the to-be scenarios. And the main aim of that process was to compare the theoretical and the factual data. Okay, starting with Corridor 4, the chosen transport route was to transport a specific cargo between Budapest and Ploiești in Hungary and Romania. The final decision was to take one empty container. The ground test was performed between the 3rd and 6th of March in 2014. And starting with the as is scenario, it means only road transport by truck between the origin and destination. Whereas the to-be scenario we chose to be implemented as well. This was of course the same destination, meaning Budapest and Ploiești, but the transportation was mostly carried out using rail transport. We had an initial and final transport leg by step because we transported the container from a warehouse to Budapest rail terminal and from Ploiești railway station to another warehouse in Ploiești. So this was this is a transportation route we chose from the theoretical models, and this was the one we tested in the ground test. The container had a very nice GIFT sticker at the very beginning, and this is the moment when the container was transshipped in the terminal.
Sì, buongiorno.
And here we can see the delays. Most of the delays were caused by maintenance works and speed limits very close to the Hungarian-Romanian border. Yeah, and this is the way back from Ploiești to Budapest, and the reasons for the delay were very the same, because we were very unlucky with this time because of the unexpected maintenance works on the railroad. Coming to the transport cost, which is most probably one of the most important concerns of the freight forwarder, we calculated the total transport cost of one trip. The container had to be transshipped twice in the terminal and in Ploiești terminal as well, and we had 2 times a road trip from the warehouse to the terminal on the way back, and the rail cargo operator was performing the rail transport between the two points. And let's compare the results of the theoretical model and the real one, the ground test. It's not a surprise that in terms of time, road transport is the quickest one, but in terms of cost, the theoretical model suggested the best values, which was at the end a bit higher than expected. And in terms of carbon dioxide emission, it's undoubtedly the best option to use more environmentally friendly transport modes as much as possible. In this case, rail transport. Some conclusions comparing theoretical numbers and the indicators of the ground test. In case regarding transport time, we had to a little bit analyze the KPI figures based on which the theoretical model was carried out. When we calculated KPIs, they only regarded the maximum speed limits, but in reality it doesn't happen very often. We have to face maintenance works speed limits very often. So in reality, it turned out that we cannot expect the theoretical best scenario. And in terms of transport time, it was proved that that still the road transport is the most favorable for freight forwarders. Transport cost. The real data were much, in this case, 20% higher than expected. Analyzing a little bit KPI indicators, we had a problem with the methodology because KPI figures regarded only tons, but in case we are transporting a container, its costing is very different, and the transport cost based on tons and TEUs cannot be compared. And this was a very specific case, and transport cost of a container is very different from that of tons of whatever other cargo. And of course, the KPIs are average numbers, and transporting an empty container is nothing but an average number. So this was a very important feedback on the theoretical model, and it's very useful to improve them in the future. Okay, and let's see corridor 7. The destination to transport still an empty container was Constanța and Dunajska in Romania and Slovakia. And the decision was again an empty container. Now I would highlight that this project had some kind of constraint because to have a real life case, we never transport one empty container, but this is a constraint of the project that just to test something we cannot transport thousands of tons just to try something out. And another challenge of this ground test was that we wanted to implement something that does not exist at the moment. And in this case, it's very hard to organize a very complex transportation route and organizing freight forwarders and terminals to transport something just to test the model. But still, we were successful at the end. And in case of corridor 7, we needed altogether 26 days for the transport. It was a very unlucky time for this ground test because it was winter, there was ice, low water, and in this transport route the container had to be transported upstream, which is of course much lower than downstream. So this was the main reason for this very long transport time. Okay, this is the as-is scenario when we apply only road transport and the container would be transported by truck. And in the 2B scenario, which we implemented in the ground test, was a multimodal transport from a warehouse in Constanța. The container was transported on roads to the port of Constanța, and from that we used waterborne transport until Budapest Freeport, and from the Freeport of Budapest, a container was transported to Dunajska on rails. So it was a very complex one, and by the way, not easy to implement. This is the moment when the container was transshipped in Constanța. Here, this is the arrival and transshipment in the Freeport of Budapest, and this is the arrival to the destination in Dunajska. Let's see the delays. There was, as I mentioned, a very huge delay because of the very unfavorable conditions and navigation conditions. And another problem was that the container arrived later to the Freeport of Budapest than expected, so the container had to be stored for 4 days there and then to be transported on rails to Dunajska. transport costs. We have, of course, several additional costs like the rental of container, which is not necessarily needed in each case. Stickers we used, of course. The container had to be transshipped in the port of Constanța and in the free port of Budapest as well, and then handled in Dunajská-Streda as a destination. We had to organize road transport in the initial leg, and then waterborne transport, and finally rail transport as well. So including every cost, it was 1,683 euros only from Constanța to Dunajská-Streda. Comparing the two theoretical models, as is in Tubi, with the real one, the ground test. Still, as in other ground tests as well, the transport time is the best in case of road transport. Transport cost would be the best according to the theoretical model, which proved to be more optimistic. As for emission, using as much rail and waterborne transport, it's the most advantageous for the environment as well. We had some similar some similar reasons when comparing the expected and the factual data. As for transport time, the delay was caused by the fact that in this case we said only upstream, while KPIs regarded both up and downstream speed as well. The winter navigation conditions were very bad in terms of low water and ice, and the container had to be stored in the free port of Budapest for 4 days. For the difference in costs, the reason is very the same as that of the corridor 4. KPI figures have only average figures, and they didn't deal with the problem of TEUs. They were calculated based on tons, and in this specific case, the transport cost of a container is very different from transporting tons, calculating in tons. Some conclusions can be drawn for all of these ground tests, which gave a very great opportunity to compare our theoretical model with a real-life scenario. In general, it can be claimed that the more environmentally friendly modes of transport are typically longer transport time, and the costs are much higher if we just transport one single container. So the economies of scale has to be highlighted in terms of waterborne and rail transport. And still some competitive advantage can be highlighted for both rail and waterborne transport in case of high and heavy goods. Of course, oversized cargo is best for waterborne transport. Dangerous goods, and it proved to be very advantageous for some companies operating in a just-in-time system to store their cargo for some days in ports in terminals. So this is briefly the result of our ground test, and thank you for your attention.
Mondom. have selected a very interesting presentation, which we held just to keep you awake. So,
yeah, I have to.
yeah, it's only for recording you. It doesn't
Okay.
help you to.
So, okay, as you know, I am responsible for the priority-free accessibility of the program Southeast Europe. You know me, I think. I've been following this project since the beginning. I work for the Southeast Europe ATS. My name is Roberta Calcina. And today I would like to wrap up a bit what we did in the past to foster somehow train transportation in the program. Just to give you some information actually, and then also to offer a perspective of what will be in the future. But it's just a few information because, as you know, the programs of transnational cooperation for the future programming period are not yet approved, so everything is it's in draft form, and maybe it should be trust 99%, but not 100%. So it's just to offer you some information that you can start to work on new projects if possible, with this few information. Since I work with Prezi, which is a wonderful Hungarian software which was developed in the past years, and they have been awarded lately as well last year or this year because of the best software. I don't know what. I want to also to check how beautiful it is. Just a few information then. The Southeast Europe program, as you know, started in 2007. We started with 16 countries, of which 8 only were member states, EU member states. There were other EU that were not member states at the time. Then Croatia entered EU, or the accession process was successful, and since last year is member state as well. So now, while we were 8 and 8 at the beginning, now we are 9 and 7. However, in this area, what you see in the map, partners have been cooperating within the last 7 years very much, even if there were huge differences. Not only in the status of this being member state or non-member states, but as you can imagine also, because some of them are EU member states for a long while, some just entered. Also the borders are very different. In some cases they are very close borders, some borders are open, some are between 2 member states like Romania and Hungary, for example. It's not Schengen yet, and so all these problems had to be tackled through the project during this period, and it was not easy at all. Plus there were also 3 different types of financial instruments that they had to be combined to put together a project. And you did a great job, I have to say, because it was difficult for us to manage, but for you inside the project it should have been really difficult. However, through these years, we approved, I think it was the exact number, 122 projects, not only on transport, because the program is financing different projects on different areas, thematic areas, and 230 million euros have been distributed. Yes, there was also a focus on transport and mobility, which was not that well defined 7 years ago or 8 years ago when the program was written down. But through your work, it was then always revised, updated somehow. We try to follow your requests, your needs, and adapt the strategy, which was originally written in 2007, to what really is needed in this area, which is not like all other transnational cooperation areas in Europe. There are 13, or there were 13 then. It was very specific for the reasons I told you before. So not like being in West Europe. It's not exactly the same, and above all for transport reasons. And however, the program had one priority, which was focusing on transport in a non-specific way. Just let's improve transport together. And 25 projects were awarded at the end on this topic. But yeah, on this general topic. It was called Improvement of Accessibility in the Region. We didn't know exactly, and I'm telling you now what happens behind the curtains. We didn't know exactly what is important, what do we finance. We receive a lot of interest and also a lot of different needs from the partners, try to put them together, but there were projects approved on all different, let's say, subtopics, and let's call it like this. So we understood that we had to concentrate on very much on transport to this area and from this area, because this was very important. But also, we thought it's important to foster, help, support transport across this area among the countries which are inside the Southeast Europe region. And they should be directed to passengers, improving transport of passengers and freight alike, and short, long distance, multimodality, but also monomodal, urban, regional, transnational, everything, and different modes. We work on road, not too much, mainly on safety, road safety mainly. Rail very much, inland navigation because of the Danube, you know how important it is for this area not only, and maritime ports. What was the common feature of these projects was they had to represent a transnational need, and they had to propose solutions which could be beneficial for the whole region, improving the accessibility, but of course, since this money available was very limited. Originally it was 65 million for transport projects, 65 million co-financing. So, but while the interest that was raised by the stakeholders was not that high, and at a certain point, the member states, actually the partner states, member states and non-member states, they decided to take some money from transport objective and move it to environmental objective because they thought there is no interest, in spite of the fact that it is a real problem. And I didn't want to talk about each one of the projects, so I put the logos. I'm sure you can find, because they're colorful, but I'm sure if you need information, you can find all these projects on the website of the program Southeast Europe and see what they were about and how many partners have been contributing and which type of partners and what were the results. And this morning I heard, and I think you also noticed that for example, from the business operator perspective, there was quite a criticism on financing projects instead of financing directly business activities, which cannot be done because, in fact, there is another level, and it's cooperation between the countries or among the countries is also necessary, even if it doesn't give immediate results, and it's not always visible, and sometimes it is perceived as a waste of money. However, it is important. So, what did we do when about freight? We have to keep in mind some main elements which were typical of this area. And the first one, as I said before, is borders. Because transport on a transnational level in this area had to keep in mind that borders are not like in those areas where borders are not existing. Between Belgium, France, I don't know, Germany and the Netherlands, things are happening much faster and it's easier. And they have better results, and maybe they think they also came here to teach how good things in their countries are going on and how bad in this area. But they don't know what it means having borders. The infrastructure as well is a problem. It cannot be improved in 7 years. There was no money for that, even if there were operational programs at national levels, whatever. Other funds, of course, a lot of plans, but you cannot expect to have the infrastructure done from zero or from a low level, completely new in a very short time. And the services as well were very bad. Road freight, we talk about this morning very much, is still predominant, and not only. I had the feeling this morning that someone said that it's not easy to compete with road freight, and it is still not. But we learned a lot in the 7 years, maybe also kids, and the environmental and territorial impact, not only environmental, because trucks are going through the villages and the maintenance of roads is an issue and so on, is something that needs to be considered. So we thought, and together with you, I mean, it was not a desk work, but it was done on the ground, that a set of efficient or low-cost measures are needed to at least improve what is possible to be improved from the organizational point of view, and to make transport more efficient, if not perfect, however, to improve what is impossible to be improved, and to find solutions. Multimodality, I think this was what we understood could be through you, an idea of put in place, also based on previous experiences, that we use the modes that we have in a more efficient way. But not only, we can this way make sure that the procedures are harmonized, the information are to improve multimodality, the procedures are harmonized, the information are tailored on the needs or also of the business sector. There are tools which we can work on tools, for example, ICT very much, or work on education of the people working in the field. The quality and reliability could be elements that can be improved through transnational cooperation, of course, legislation and administrative background. And of course, need to be closer to the market operators, because we cannot keep on doing things forward. It was also my feeling today that maybe this conference should have been involved more in business operators, more people working in the field, because otherwise no one will know about what you have been doing. And I will skip this because I'm not sure about. Okay, we had a lot of projects on this, but what I want to focus on is the fact that we cannot judge how good or how bad the results, because we are administrative people. Even if trying to learn from your projects very much, we cannot do but take your results and transfer to the future. And this was what was done by the program, by putting you together in these thematic groups for capitalization, having you, let's say, making a peer review of each other so that you can decide, if the results of other projects are good, you can use it or not. So, and this is what we did. So we try to, through a capitalization strategy, to bring your results forward to the new programming period, which has been almost finalized. There will be 3 programs now where the Southeast Europe program was, that won't continue. And we try to make sure they understand they cannot start again from zero, or not recognizing what you've been doing, or not recognizing you as a very important stakeholder, because this is what is lost sometimes. When they start the programming of new programs, the programming phase, they very much rely on experts which are not, cannot be expert in the field as much as you are. So they have to take into consideration your results. This is what we did. We try to put it in easy to read documents for them to digest and put in the new programs, where you can find then new financial instruments for continuation of your projects. What is the future then? As I said, 3 programs where the Southeast Europe was before. This will be a problem for transport projects. It will be. We have been trying to make sure they understand that breaking or networks that have been put in place during the last years was a big issue for us. But nevertheless, now you have 3 new transnational cooperation areas. Inside these cooperation areas, you can work together, maybe also for continuing your projects. There will be, it seems, some instruments for allowing you to cooperate between 2 programming areas, but this is not 100% sure yet. The first one, what I want to present you, maybe you know, is the Adriatic Ionian Transnational Cooperation Area. Covers quite a number of countries that were originally in the Southeast Europe, and would allow somehow a continuation of some activities that were focusing there. Not everything. Of course, we talked today about the Corridor 7, which is not I don't have too many information because, as I said, the program is not approved and the informations are not very public somehow. But there will be 4 member states, 4 non-member states from the same area. It will be very much in line with a macro-regional strategy, which I don't know if you know what it is, but it's an instrument for cooperation on a strategic level of the countries included in this program. It will be based as let's say, programming bodies in Poland and Italy. And there is one priority which could be interesting for you, which is let's say, originating from the regulation for territorial cooperation, which says enhance capacity for integrated transport and mobility service and multimodality in the Adriatic, Ionian area and region. So, according to also the details that we have and that are partially public, it's very much in line with what GIFT has been doing until this moment, even if somehow it is, I don't know if it will be confirmed, but they keep on saying, everyone for the future territorial cooperation, that we should not insist on corridors or the TEN-T core network, because in this case there are other instruments which are put in place. What is better to be done through the territorial cooperation is to, let's say, connect secondary and transport network to the primary transport network. This is what they prefer, but I don't know if it will be confirmed. However, as you can see, around 99 million euros, of which 83 will be for the member states and 15 for the non-member states, with a co-financing of 85%. We don't expect any calls to have been out before the second half, actually, of 2015, because they are lagging a bit behind. Second program is the Danube region, which is much more advanced, and as you can see, covers a very large area, very similar to the Southeast Europe, which with small differences. Albania, former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia are not there, Greece and Italy are not there, but Czech Republic and some regions of Germany, some states of Germany are there. And it allows a lot of work on the Danube. Even for this program, with a larger budget, moreover, 263 million euros. There is a focus on transport also, once again, and this is specified, not insisting, the project shall not insist on the corridors, but it's still very general, not very well defined. And also call for proposal in the second half of 2015. Third and last is the transnational cooperation area Balkan Mediterranean, which involves Greece and Bulgaria with former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, Cyprus and Albania. As more cooperation programs, let me see if I can show you again. So this southern part of the Southeast Europe region, with a very small budget, 33 million euros, however, no specific focus on accessibility or transport, anything. They decided to avoid this. There is something mentioned in relation to transport when they define the priority on environment or protection of environment, of what will be in the future. So something is there, but not specified. Let's see how the details of these programs are developed. They are running fast, very fast. They started only end of 2013, but it seems that it will be the first to launch the cost proposal. So maybe even in the first half of 2015. Everything, location of the program bodies is in the summary. That's all. I mean, we don't have more details. Of course, do not forget that there are many other funds that you should use / combine with the transnational cooperation funds, like cross-border funds, national funds, connecting Euro facility funds, I don't know how many there are. Just, of course, is the Horizon 2020, of course, which is a big budget and a lot of opportunities. And you have to find a way now that you are on the second stage, since you had already an experience with the project, to combine them so that you can finance all the activities you have in mind. That's all. Thank you very much.
So, any remark or question on this presentation? Yes, please.
Just a remark on the reduction of funds on the transport access. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't not at all a question of importance. It was a question of non-capability by the official offices of different participating countries in preparing project and transport. And they didn't want to give money to external groups, external organizations, so they decided to move money from transport to environment because, for example, in Italy, regional authorities are well prepared to present projects in environment and not in transport. But it's not a question of importance, it's just a question of opportunistic behavior.
Yeah, if I can complete this, in fact, in our experience, we had calls for proposals where, in which, for the same amount of budget, we received, I don't know, 20 proposals for transport projects and 200 for environment. Because the stakeholders there are much more, from the municipalities to the ministries and from the NGOs, I don't know, whatever.
It's easier.
Yeah, they
It's
all
easier.
are stakeholders of environmental projects, while for transport and in some countries it's a very limited number of competent bodies, and this is why also in the Danube, where we have the first breakdown of budget for priorities, the budget for transport and energy, because in that case it's transport and energy together is very low, it's like 20 million, and we can already forecast that 80% of it will be used by energy projects, and that's for sure.
Anyone else? Yes, please.
It's not just a remark, but the department has to come back at home, and I take the opportunity to say thanks to the JTS for the support of the activity of the whole project. It was a very long project, 3 years, very big project with a lot of partners, a huge amount of difficulties, and to tell the truth, we were really very well supported by the JTS. So we are at the end. We were able to produce some results. I think also thanks again to the activity that we were able to do to support all this complexity that was the GIFT project. So many thanks also in behalf, I think, of the department.
Thank you very much.
move to the next presentation. Liquefied natural gas inland navigation. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Finally, the last presentation for yesterday and for today. I hope that the last thing of the session, this presentation, to be the beginning for next future projects and maybe cooperation initiative and maybe to other activities. The main the title of this presentation is Liquefied Natural Gas, Fuel and Cargo for Inland Navigation. The main goal of my presentation is just to give you some very basic information about LNG, about the project LNG Master Plan, which is currently running under the 10T multi-annual call, and about our company involvement in this project. And also another major goal is to create awareness about this subject, and about LNG as a fuel, which seems to be the fuel of the future. Very basic information. Very important about LNG is that it is a clear, colorless, odorless, non-toxic, non-corrosive liquid. And the most important thing is that 600 cubic meters of natural gas worth only 1 cubic meter of LNG. So the difference between gas and liquefied gas is huge. Procurement of LNG and of course transport of LNG with LNG carriers on seagoing ships, on maritime transport, LNG trailer trucks, or it could be produced under small-scale liquefaction facility for gas. It could be stored on regasification terminals and also on LNG refueling station for different sizes. And also, finally, it could be used for industrial purposes, for LNG fuel trucks and for LNG fuel vessels. Regarding the procurement and the transport, 2 weeks ago at Rotterdam, an LNG small-scale conference, I have been told that in USA they started a few years ago to develop regulations and equipments for the transport of LNG using the rail also. So this LNG could be also a future cargo for the rail. Yeah. The benefit of LNG. Yeah.
And who is the producer of this LNG? It comes from Russia?
No. You will see. On next slide. In fact, Russia is not a very important producer of LNG. From the environmental point of view, using the LNG decrease the emissions of CO2 with approximately 20%, the emission of NOx with 80%, with 99% of SO gases, and it seems to be a very friendly environmentally fuel. Also, further CO2 reduction is possible using the bio-LNG, using the renewable energy sources. So from this point of view, it's very interesting. About what you ask, global energy flows. You could see here the major exporters countries, which is Qatar with 77 megatons, Malaysia and Australia. Major importers are Japan, South Korea and China. And you could see here some flows of different transport lines of this fuel. And in the last 2 or 3 years, also USA become an important exporter of LNG. Next one, LNG share in global natural gas trade. In 1998, only 25% of the trade with gas was LNG. In 2012, 32% of the share it was LNG. And we expect that LNG to be 50% of the natural gas trade market in 2035. Next, LNG terminals in Europe. You could see here terminals, existing terminals with green color, under construction or under expansion terminals with red color, and with yellow under study or planned terminals which have to be achieved in the next years. As you could see, Spain is very well developed, north of Italy and France, UK, and Holland and Belgium, of course. And for the next years, also other countries, mostly south of Italy, Romania, and the northern countries plan to build LNG terminals. So we could say that LNG infrastructure is already existing in Europe. Next, but you could see here the axis from Port of Rotterdam to Port of Constanța in Romania, so the Rhine-Main-Danube axis, which is practically free of LNG. We do not have nothing in this region. You could see here some pioneer users of LNG trucks. Of different companies which use LNG, and also in Europe, in the United States, in different countries. You could see that you could use LNG also for public transport, but also for transporting different cargo. The solution for this lack of LNG on the Rhine-Main-Danube axis is the LNG Master Plan project. The aims of the project is to facilitate the distribution of LNG via inland navigation along Rhine-Main-Danube axis, to provide landlocked Europe countries with LNG, and also to raise awareness and establishing pioneer markets. It was approved last year under the Commission decision from 16 October last year. Of course, inside of our project, we have to keep in mind the regulatory framework, which will establish the condition of using and transporting LNG. Of course, technical concepts for ships mainly, but also for trucks. And the most important part is the pilot deployment phase, which you could see that we have a lot of pilot actions. Some key facts about this project. Project coordination, Pro-Danube management from Austria for the Danube region, and Port of Rotterdam from Netherlands for the Rhine region. It was approved under 10T Multi-Annual Call 2012, time frame 2013-2015, estimated investment budget approximately 120 million euro. Eligible cost of this budget is approximately 80 million euro, and EU funding is half of this budget, approximately 40 million euro. We are now 33 organizations as beneficiary of this project, majority from private sector. It's very important that we are supported by the Ministry of Transport from several countries, and also by Central Commission of Navigation on the Rhine. And we have also approximately 40 public and private organizations as non-funded partners. You could see there some graph related to the split of budget and the number of beneficiaries. The objective of our project is to identify and quantify pioneer markets and customers in the hinterland of the inland ports, which is very important because the axis from Rotterdam to Constanța just cross the Europe from one point to another, to analyze cost and safety benefits of LNG use, to transfer know-how and raise awareness about this subject, to deliver technical concept for new and retrofitted vessels for inland shipping navigation, but also for LNG small terminals and LNG refueling stations. As I told you before, we have a lot of pilot deployment activities. The objective of these pilot deployments is to provide evidence for the economic viability of LNG deployment, to provide best practice solutions for further development, taking into consideration that we, especially the Western countries and also countries from other continents, not only in Europe, already use this fuel for ships and for buses, for trucks, to pave the way for a wide-scale deployment on the Rhine-Main axis, and to raise the awareness of the political decision makers. Some examples of our pilot deployment: we have LNG terminals, Boccia station in the port of Antwerp, in port of Brussels in Bavaria. We have LNG vehicles and different machineries which will be built under this project. We have LNG tankers for transporting the LNG on sea. And we have LNG propelled vessels mainly for inland navigation. You could see here different countries and different cities along the Danube, and what is intended to be done in these cities. You could see Constanța, Galați from Romania, Ruse from Bulgaria, Komarno from Slovakia, Vienna and Linz from Austria. So a lot of countries along the Danube are participating in this project. Here you have the map of the pilot deployments and major activities under the Rhine region. As you could see, you have here Port of Basel, Port of Strasbourg, Mannheim, Duisburg, and also Rotterdam and Antwerp as maritime ports, but also linked with inland ports. Our company, the involvement of our company in this project, we represent a national company which we are managing the port infrastructure on the maritime Danube. Our mission is to integrate the inland and sea ports located on the Danube in the commercial route to and from Romania. Our main goal is to ensure the same level of proficiency offered in all ports located on the maritime stretch of the Danube. You could see here a map with the location of Romania on this very important transport axis, and with location of our ports. The main port is Galați, and the other also very important ports are Brăila and Tulcea. Of course, we have other small several ports which we manage. From the 10T core network point of view, the port of Galați and port of Constanța from Romania are members of the core network as inland and sea ports. A very important thing is that ports that are part of the 10T core network should comply with the provision of the European Commission draft directive on the deployment of alternative fuel infrastructure. So until 220 and 225, inland and maritime ports should offer different fuel alternative to the ships. This is very important. This is the structure of the project. You could see on the first work package, framework and market analysis, and very important, the status quo analysis, supply analysis, demand analysis, and the impact of using LNG for safety, for ecology, and for social economical aspects. The second one, technologies and operational concepts for ships and for terminals. The third, the building and the technical design concepts and feasibility studies also for vessels and terminals, regulatory framework and master plan, pilot deployment, very important, and of course the project management package. Our company is involved in activity 1, activity 3, and also in project management. For activity 3, at least, here we will have a pre-feasibility study for an LNG terminal in Galați, and if the results of this pre-feasibility study will be positive, and we'll have investors interested in building this terminal, we'll proceed to the second stage and to have to order a real feasibility study as the basis for the future investment. and also we are involved in the financial models for this, also in project management. If you have any further questions about this subject, we could, you have here my contact details. You could ask any project partners which are listed here, but the most important is to contact ProDenu, which is the project coordinator for the Denu region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. You open a new chapter in relation to what have been discussed in the previous presentations. And I'm expecting the audience to have a lot of questions concerning how close is this future and what will be the effects on the physical gas that we have now for heating, because one of the reasons that the gas is 20% less price in comparison to the petroleum is that you cannot store it, and you create a technology that will store this material. So you have a radical impact in the prices of the market.
The most important thing is that this project is running right now, is a flagship project of the European Commission, and it is in the same time a very strong signal sent by the European Commission for the use and for the transport of this LNG.
Yeah, the inland waterways seem to be a safe route to transport such dangerous cargoes. And I think it's useful that you have initiated the project that in June. So, questions from the audience, please? Okay. If there is no other intervention in the meeting, I would like to thank you, all of you, for being this last session with us. And hope to have the opportunity to meet again in the next meeting or in the next project.
Yes. Thank you.